China is changing its game in Africa. For years, it poured money into massive projects. Think roads, railways, and ports. Now it's switching gears. China is investing in things like farms, solar panels, and factories. This is a big deal. It's about more than just building stuff. It's about changing the very fabric of Africa's economy. This new approach is partly a response to criticism. Some say China's old ways left countries in debt. Others argue the projects mostly benefited Chinese companies. China's new plan aims to address these concerns. It wants to be seen as a partner, not just a contractor. This shift is shaking things up. It's a sign of China's growing influence, and it has the potential to reshape Africa's future. What does this mean for the average person? It's complicated. On the one hand, more investment can be a good thing. It can create jobs and boost economies, but it's important to ask questions. Who benefits most? Are these projects sustainable? And what are the long-term consequences? These are questions African nations and China need to grapple with together. Let's be honest, infrastructure is important. You can't build a strong economy without roads and bridges, and China deserves credit for investing in these areas. But it's only part of the story. Focusing solely on infrastructure is like building a house without furniture. It's a good start, but you need more to make it livable. That's where China's new strategy comes in. It's about investing in sectors that create jobs and boost local economies: agriculture, green energy, manufacturing. These are the areas where Africa has huge potential. By shifting its focus, China is acknowledging this reality. It's recognizing that true development requires a more holistic approach. This isn't just about charity, it's about China's own interests. China needs resources and markets for its goods. Africa offers both in abundance. By investing in these sectors, China is creating opportunities for itself and for Africa. It's a win-win situation, at least on paper. Africa has the potential to be a breadbasket. It has vast tracts of fertile land and a young, growing population, but it faces challenges. Outdated farming methods, lack of infrastructure, and climate change are holding it back. This is where China's expertise could make a real difference. China has a long history of agricultural innovation. It's learned how to increase yields, improve irrigation, and develop drought-resistant crops. By sharing this knowledge with Africa, China can help unlock its agricultural potential. This could transform the lives of millions of people. Imagine a future where Africa is a net exporter of food, where farmers have the tools and knowledge to thrive, where hunger is a distant memory. This is the vision that China's investment in agriculture could help realize. But it won't be easy. It will require commitment, investment, and a willingness to learn from each other. Africa is blessed with abundant sunshine and wind, yet millions lack access to electricity. This is not just a humanitarian crisis, it's an economic one. Without reliable power, businesses can't grow, and people's lives are limited. China, a leader in renewable energy, can help change this. It's already investing heavily in solar, wind, and hydropower in Africa. These projects are bringing light to homes and powering up industries. They are also creating jobs and reducing carbon emissions. This is a smart move for China. It positions China as a leader in the fight against climate change. It also gives Chinese companies a foothold in a rapidly growing market. But most importantly, it has the potential to transform Africa for the better. From factory to forefront, manufacturing a brighter future. For too long, Africa has been seen as a source of raw materials, but it has the potential to be much more. It can become a hub for manufacturing and innovation. China is already investing in factories and industrial parks across Africa. These investments are creating jobs and boosting local economies. This shift is crucial for Africa's long-term economic growth. The debt dilemma, navigating financial waters. Let's address the elephant in the room: debt. China's lending practices have come under scrutiny. Some African countries are struggling to repay their loans. This has led to accusations of debt trap diplomacy, where China uses loans to gain leverage over countries. It's a serious issue that needs to be addressed. China denies these accusations. It argues that its loans are helping to develop Africa. And it's true that many of these projects have brought benefits. But it's important to ensure that loans are sustainable and don't lead to crippling debt. This requires transparency, accountability, and responsible lending practices. Both China and African nations need to be more transparent about loan terms and conditions. They need to ensure that projects are economically viable and benefit local populations, and they need to work together to find solutions when debt becomes unsustainable. China's investments in Africa aren't just about altruism. They are part of a broader geopolitical strategy. China is vying for influence and resources. It wants to secure its access to raw materials and expand its global footprint. This has made some Western powers nervous. They see China as a threat to their own interests. And they are right to be concerned. China's rise is reshaping the global order. But it's not necessarily a zero-sum game. There is room for cooperation and competition. China and the West can work together on issues like climate change, poverty reduction, and peacekeeping, but they will also compete for resources, markets, and influence. This is the reality of the 21st century. Despite the challenges, there is a real opportunity for a win-win partnership between China and Africa. China needs resources and markets. Africa needs investment and infrastructure. By working together, they can both benefit. But this partnership must be based on mutual respect and shared goals. It can't be a one-way street where China dictates the terms. African nations have agency. They have the right to negotiate fair deals and prioritize their own development priorities. When done right, this partnership can be transformative. It can lift millions out of poverty, create jobs, and boost economic growth. It can help address global challenges like climate change and food security, but it requires a commitment to transparency, sustainability, and mutual benefit. China's engagement in Africa is a balancing act. It needs to balance its own interests with the needs of African nations. It needs to address concerns about debt, transparency, and environmental sustainability. And it needs to build trust and foster genuine partnerships. This requires a shift in mindset. China can't just treat Africa as a source of resources or a market for its goods. It needs to see Africa as a partner in development, a continent with its own agency and aspirations. It also requires listening to African voices. What do African people want? What are their priorities? These are the questions that China needs to be asking, and it needs to be prepared to adjust its approach accordingly. Africa is on the cusp of a new era. Its population is booming, its economies are growing, and its potential is limitless. China's role in this new Africa is still being written. Will it be a force for good or a neo-colonial power? The answer depends on the choices that both China and Africa make. If they choose cooperation over exploitation, transparency over secrecy, and sustainability over short-term gain, they can create a brighter future for both continents. This is not just about China and Africa, it's about the future of global development. The world is watching and the stakes are high. The choices made today will shape the world for generations to come. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more insightful content.